All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's up, Pair by Wins a Lot, Nate D, Sean Sullivan, Josie Girl, William, Go Collect, Kevin, Jordan, Romy, Michael, and the man of the weekend, Rio Hebrewcheetah. 20K on Saturday, live final seat, 50K value. Going to be $1 million though in a couple days for our man Rio on Sunday. Trip out to Arizona by me. Man, all the hard work, all the grinding all year long for all the members pays off. Very happy for you, man. Well deserved. How's your day going? Has to be going pretty good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely been a good weekend. Yeah, nice to get that seat punched. Definitely wish I could have got it earlier this season, but better late than never. So I'll be heading out your way in a couple days and hopefully come back home $1 million richer. So looking forward to that. I already took a glance at the slate. Probably gonna be another non-late swap slate, so it's kind of nice. I was talking smack about the late swap stuff earlier this year, but now we got a little bit of practice going into the weekend. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. The place looks awesome. Hotel looks super nice. Always like going to these things, so it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, no, very, very well deserved. That's why I met you last year. Rio took 12th place. Very, very good team. Was climbing up there. 12th place. Also met Jasmine. Arizona, here we come. Can't wait. So going to be very excited for that. 100 people. 1 out of 100 chance at $1 million. Awesome stuff. And MMA too. Hey, only a couple, very close to solos. Not solo shipper, but first place with only a couple uniques. You took second with only a couple uniques. But your ass, come on, man. In my DM, trying to reverse jinx the main event the whole way. Not even a minute in. He's dead. He's dead. Come on, man. We got the job done, though. Huge win for Tibera. Take it down is right. Luis is in here. Jason, Jasmine, Networks. What's going on? Appreciate everyone hanging out. Just a 5-game slate, though, Rio, on this Tuesday. Actually, yeah, I got to mention this. 9 more days to baseball. Absolutely crazy. Opening day next Thursday. Our Brewers kick it off to start it off, Gator Nation. Very pumped for that. Still have NASCAR, still have MMA, still have PGA, of course, NBA playoffs. No better time. Jump over to SHIPITNation.com. Use that promo code HOOP15. Gets you 15% off any membership. Weekly, monthly, 6-month. No better price, no better content out there in the industry. People like Rio leading you in the NBA streets, putting the money behind his plays, also correlation tools, projections updated throughout the night. Go check it out. Again, Hoop15, 15% off. 5-game slate, Rio, pretty easy on this Tuesday, and I like it in terms of time. Slate's going to be done early, 7 p.m. Eastern start time, 2 games at 7, 1 game at 7:30, 1 game at 8, 1 game at 9. Slate's done. Again, we will have showdown content for that Denver-Minnesota game. Q-tags, not many of them. Timberwolves stuff, Gobert, Naz Reid, and then Kuzma. Kuzma, we'll get that news early. Any broad slate overviews or anything before we go game by game?
No, I mean, I think that the slate kind of looks pretty straightforward. You're going to be jamming in a lot of these guys in the first game of the night, the Houston-Washington game, which we'll go over and talk about some pivots we can make. But yeah, I mean, I think that the slate looks pretty interesting because you have 3 spend-up options tonight in Luka, Jokic, and Wemby. So you kind of have to figure out what you want to do with that. Obviously, Luka been on a tear lately, so we're going to want to play a lot of him. But yeah, I don't know. I like the slate. Just finished putting the slate plan up. Kind of a weird slate though, where I think every spread is above 7 points tonight. So very good risk of a lot of these games blowing out. So we'll try to pinpoint those spots as we see fit tonight.
Yep, great breakdown for sure. We'll get right into it. Again, like button. Appreciate it a ton. Helps us out bringing you free shows every single day on this channel. Hit that subscribe button if you aren't already. 5 games on the slate. We'll start with that first game that you were talking about, 7 p.m. Eastern. Rockets, Washington Wizards, the premier game of the night. 228 total. Like you mentioned, a lot of big spreads. This one, Rockets 10-point favorites. Washington side, very important news. Kyle Kuzma is questionable. We will get that news before lock. Tyus Jones out. Denny Avdia out. Bilal Coulibaly out. Eugene Omarari also out. man, the laundry list, when we're talking March NBA DFS, all these dudes being out. Sengun obviously out, Rockets, Cam Whitmore, nothing really changed on the Rocket side. Start with Washington and if you think Kuzma's in or out. If he's out, what does that do? And yeah, break down this one. Definitely going to get some ownership in this game.
Yeah, so first thing I want to say is that I think that you kind of have to be mindful of your groupings and rules you want to set for this game, because I think if you were just to run the optimizer, you're going to get probably 5 to 6 guys in this game. And while I think that some of these guys are really good plays, I don't necessarily want 80% of my lineups to be with, 3 Wizards and three Rockets. So I'm going to go over some rules in this one when we get to the actual players in this. But as far as Kuzma goes, I feel like he's probably more doubtful. Got the shoulder soreness. I doubt it's anything serious, but their coach talked about wanting to get some guys some looks. So, at this point in the season, I think a vet like Kuzma, who I don't know how they see him as like a long-term fit, but this is a time of the season where you want to start to give these guys, these no-name type of guys, looks and see what they have. So, yeah, I'm kind of expecting Kuzma to sit. We'll obviously have that news, but if he sits, I would expect a pretty heavy dosage of Patrick Baldwin Jr. again. And yeah, I mean, he played pretty well. I mean, played into blowouts. So I think that these guys are going to be really good values if Kuzma sits. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be really thin tonight. So we're probably going to see a starting lineup of Jordan Poole, Champagnie, Kispert, and then one of Kuzma or Baldwin Jr., and then Rashawn Holmes. I think on the Wizard side of things, I really just want to focus on the guys that are going to play in the blowout, because I don't really see a way that they can keep this game close. I mean, their defense obviously been terrible all season long, but even lately they've been a huge rim funnel all season. But in the month of March, they've actually been giving up a ton of 3-pointers, which is kind of like their saving grace in terms of keeping games close. But if they're going to be giving up a ton of 3-pointers with already having a terrible transition defense, already having terrible rim defense, then I just don't really see a way that they can keep this game close. So do I really want to invest $6,600 into a 60+% owned Jordan Poole tonight when the downside risk of his minutes are really high? Because he's, I'll start with him just because the usage and everything, touch time, all the usage numbers have been really good for him the last couple of games with his team being thin. But he hasn't played more than 23 minutes, or averaging 23 minutes in his last couple of games. He's not going to play in the blowout, and I think that the downside risk of the matchup and the minutes minutes not really being there for him, going up against Dillon Brooks, going up against a team where they're almost double-digit road or home dogs, then I could see him really busting at this price tag and high ownership. So I'm going to be taking an underweight stance on Jordan Poole personally, and then I'll really just be focusing on these cheaper guys like Justin Champagnie, like Patrick Baldwin Jr. If Kyle Kuzma is out, I could get to a little bit of Jared Butler too. I think Johnny Davis is going to play into blowout as well, so I'm going to be bumping those guys up a little bit more and then be a little bit under on Jordan Poole. And then on the Rocket side of things, I mean, the match was great for all these guys. I really like Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green. I think one of these guys gets there tonight. I don't really want to be playing both of them together at these price tags, so I'm going to be a max one. Slightly prefer Jalen Green for his upside a little bit, but both these guys look really good, so I have nothing negative to say about them. Fred VanVleet's had a really solid role as a lead ball handler, over 6 minutes of touch time the last 3 games since Sengun has missed, averaging 48.6 DK points. Jalen Green second on the team in usage, or first on the team in usage and second on the team in touch time, average back-to-back 51 DK point games, so I like him. I think Jabari Smith, another candidate to bust here at almost 7K, kind of been taken on the starting center role, but I think his rebounding rates have really taken a hit, sharing the floor with Amen Thompson, even Jalen Green, both those guys are really good rebounders for their positions. So I think that, in this matchup, even against a weak rim defense, Jabari Smith is just not a guy that's going to be taking a ton of shots around the rim. So I'm going to take an underweight stance on him as well. I am pretty okay with Amen Thompson. Just wish the minutes were there a little bit more, but this is his type of matchup: fast-paced game, weak rim defense. Put up 46 points against this team earlier, just 2 games ago. So I like him. Dillon Brooks chalks, never good. I'm okay getting away from that, and I think Landale is fine. Probably a better spot for him than Jabari Smith. And I think Jeff Green is kind of interesting as a pivot to these guys.
Great breakdown for sure. I'll touch on these two Wizards bench Williams talking about. We'll start with Jules Bernard. I don't know. I feel that Jared Butler for sure is in play as the backup 3.7K. He will come with a little ownership. If you think the game does blow out, Jules Bernard, 23 minutes last game, 26% usage. Ownership does not look to be there. For sure, if Kuzma's out, he's in play. Baldwin will get the ownership because he'll start for him. I do like Baldwin a good amount. Another Wisco kid. I don't know if you knew that, Rio.
I didn't.
Yeah, another one right here. But played 31 minutes last game. He can rebound. Shot the ball very poorly. 2 for 11 from the field. He'd get probably the ownership, but I don't think I can get to Jules Bernard if Kuzma's in. But I can still get to Butler, is how I see it. Do you differ, or do you think you can play Bernard if Kuzma's in? Butler, I think you can play because he'll be the backup 1 and get blowout run if it does blow out.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Yeah, I think you would just need Kuzma out to get to Bernard, but he played a ton of minutes in blowout, so I think that he's another guy they're going to give a look. Yeah, so I think I agree with you though.
Yeah, for sure. If you told me this game blew out, he'd be a play. But if this game stayed close, I think Bernard, if Kuzma was in, the floor is too low there, or at least Butler's going to get some minutes. Yeah, no, I think it's a good breakdown, and I like the underweight. Like Poole's definitely going to be one of the highest owned on the slate. So, I mean, yeah, if you get 22 minutes, again, he does have a 40% usage rate last game in 23 minutes. He shot the ball well, 12 for 19. If he shoots poorly like before, 4 for 12 the game before, 22 minutes, 33% usage, 26 DK points. I mean, that's not going to be enough at high ownership. So I do like I like that shout, trying to get underweight there. Not much really more to add. Any like favorite Rockets, like a Van Vliet, Jalen Green, if you had to pick between the two? Or I meant Thompson, I think was your favorite. But Van Vliet or Green, if you had to pick one of them?
I like Green a little bit better, just cheaper, and I think that the upside a little bit better on Jalen Green. But I think that like he's the high end and low end is a lot higher on Jalen Green than it is for Fred VanVleet. Fred seems like a much stronger cash game play. Just he's been really consistent lately, and I think Green has like that 60-point upside that I'm not sure that Fred VanVleet really has.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like it. I mean, man, that move, the behind the back, broken ankle, stare him down, hand in the face, mouth turnaround. Come on now. That was so nasty. But yeah, last thing I'll really add to slate overview. There's 2 games that are getting ownership. Houston, Washington, the game we just talked about, and Dallas Spurs, 234.5 total. This game, 220 and 228 total. Again, totals don't always match up, but 203 we're going to talk about, 215.5, 213. So clearly for over-unders pace of play, there's 2 games that stand out, and that is the games getting ownership right now. We'll get to the 203 game, Charlotte-Orlando, also locks at 7 p.m. Eastern. And, man, this game's gross. No injuries on the Orlando side. They're healthy. Charlotte, Trey Mann's questionable. And, like, yeah, Seth, Mark Williams, LaMelo out. No changes there. I got nothing, man. Ownership-wise, I think Cole Anthony maybe is the most popular in this game. I mean, everyone's going to be pretty low owned. Is there anyone that stands out to you? Paulo, he was part of your shipper there. Is there any low owned piece that you can mix in to help you get to the top on this slate?
Yeah, I think I could get to some of these Magic guys. We know that the Charlotte defense, I mean, they've been getting much better post All-Star break, adding guys like Grant Williams to the mix. So I think that that's definitely made them much better and more competitive, but their offense is so bad. So there's another game I could definitely see blowing out. Obviously, the spread indicates that, but even with their defense really improving lately, they still have been very bad at defending the rim, which is not the best thing going up against a team like Orlando, who is the second highest rim scoring team this season. So Paulo, I'll start with him because I think that he's very interesting as a spend-up option tonight at 9K. He's leading this team in usage, assist percentage, and touch time this month. I mentioned it, how he kind of has like the LeBron James type role, very, very similar role with the assists and usage numbers, touch time, really just the point guard for this team right now. Second on the team in rim points per game. So going up the bottom 8 rim defense and team that ranks bottom 5 in DVP versus power forwards this season. I think that he looks really strong as a spend-up option, even at 9K. Going to be super low owned. So I like Paulo a good bit. And then Franz I'll mention as well because he leads the team in rim scoring for the Magic this season. Been a guy that's beaten up on weak rim defense all season long. Had some of his best games against the Wizards. The minutes have been coming down a little bit. It hasn't topped 31 in 4 straight games, but I think that last game was due to a little bit of foul trouble. So I'm pretty into Paulo and Franz in this matchup, but I think I'm going to be max one of those two right now. I guess like matchup wise, it's a good spot for Wendell Carter Jr. Going to see around 28 minutes. So, I mean, I don't love it, don't hate it. I think he's just fine. And then Jonathan Isaac is the salary saving option I would look to in this game. I wouldn't expect like a huge game out of Isaac, like at any point this season, really. But he's been really solid, 20 plus DK points in 5 straight games, going to be around 20 minutes a night. I think you'd be pretty happy with 20 to 25 on the slate. But yeah, I would not really expect a ton out of him. And then, yeah, the Trey Mann news, I guess, is kind of important because he has been taking away some ball handling role and some usage off of guys like Bridges, Brandon Miller, and Micic. So if he's out, I guess the only guy I'm really considering is Micic at 5.5K, just because the Magic are very similar to the Celtics in some ways. Very solid overall defense, but their pick and roll defense has been pretty bad all season long, bottom 5 in the league in that category. Yeah, it's not the most comfortable thing when a guy like Micic is your top pick and roll scorer, but I think that the role would be pretty solid for Micic if Trey Mann were to be out. But if he's in, then really I think that this Charlotte team is pretty close to an X out, and that could get behind some Pokachevsky at 3.7K, seeing more minutes. And he's always been a pretty solid fantasy point per minute guy, so I'd be okay with Poku, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, I can get behind Micic. Like Jason's asking Miller, Micic, if Mann was out, I'd go Micic for the price and the savings. 24% usage last 2 games, 30 minutes, 5.5. I mean, I think you can definitely do worse. Not sure ownership will get there. But other than that, and that's only if Mann's out, I guess I don't hate him. Even if Mann's in, I wouldn't hate him to be different. But they're probably for 95 points. Like, not a team I really want to target. Any thoughts on Cole Anthony? The Paulo shot I like is a contrarian spend. I prefer him to Franz, but what about Cole Anthony at 4.3?
I mean, I don't really have a strong take on him. The minutes have started to come back up around the mid-20s, low 20s now, but Markelle Fultz is back. I guess that might take a little bit of upside off of him. Jalen Suggs still, he's healthy. Jonathan Isaac back. So I don't know. I don't really have a strong take on Cole Anthony. I guess he's fine, but I don't think that he's like a great value by any means.
Sounds good. No, what's up, Jimmy Hendricks? But no, we don't have news on the Wizards or Timberwolves game yet. Network likes Franz. Yeah, we both definitely saw that poster and hurt his finger and stuff. Yeah, that was absolutely insane. Yeah, let's keep it going on the slate. That's the first 2 games. I mean, again, Houston, Washington, the first game of the night. Kuzma news questionable tag is big. And then Dallas Spurs. That's who's going to get the ownership on this slate. Yeah, Orlando has all the players. Everyone's hurt in March except Orlando, I guess. And usually injuries dictate a lot in terms of who you're playing. But Paulo's still playing 35 minutes a night, so that's who I have most interest in. Let's keep it rolling. 7:30 Eastern, New Orleans Pelicans, Brooklyn Nets. 215.5 total. Pelicans 8-point favorites. Injury report in this one. Dorian Finney-Smith is questionable for Brooklyn. That's all we got. So again, a game with 2 relatively healthy teams, pretty low total. Zion's definitely my favorite play in this game. 8.7K. Like, I prefer him over Paulo though a good bit. So not sure how much. And the thing is, he'll be a decent bit higher owned, I guess. But I don't think Zion's like going to be getting the ownership. We have plenty of studs on this slate to pay for. So Paulo's going to be low owned. I think Zion relatively low owned. People are going to go Luka. They have multiple other pivots. So yeah, I love Zion in this spot. Talk about him, and then anyone else in this one. And then would you make rules if you do like Zion, like McCollum? I guess McCollum and Zion BI. What rules would you do there?
Yeah, normally I'm pretty strict on my rules with the Pelicans and like the Clippers type groupings, where I usually just be max 1. But I think on a smaller slate, I'd be okay with max 2 of those guys. I think that I would be fine if I landed on like Zion and CJ or Ingram and CJ, something like that.
Especially at CJ's price. 6.5 is down there now. When they're all in the 7s, I guess Zion's up there a little bit, but yeah, I think I like that.
Yeah, CJ definitely price coming down. Even Ingram's price tag come down a lot too with Zion just kind of taking over as the alpha for this team. I'll get to that in a second, but yeah, I mean, this Nets defense, like kind of silently slipping down in the defensive rating standings. They're bottom 12 in defensive rating this month, dead last in rim defense, which is very surprising when you consider they have some pretty solid defenders like Dorian Finney and Day'Ron Sharpe and Nick Claxton down low. Pelicans defense very good this month, top 2 in the defensive rating stats this month. But giving up a little bit of 3-pointers. So if there's ever an area to attack the Pelicans, it's with 3-point shooters, catch and shoot guys. They're bottom 7 in catch and shoot defense this month or this year. But yeah, Zion definitely my favorite option in this game. Probably like him a little bit more than Paulo as well. But he's just been great from a role and fantasy perspective, averaging 45.3 DK points this month. Leads the team in usage, 27%, 25% assist percentage, which I believe is second on the team. Really good ball handling role, 4.7 minutes of touch time. Nets defense, like I just mentioned, really struggling with their interior presence right now. Zion is third in the league in drives per game this month, as well as being top 2 in the league scoring off of drives. So yeah, I really like Zion. I'm always pretty into Zion as a spend up option, but yeah, really like it. Matchup and role for him tonight. And I think Ingram is just kind of okay. Probably going to see a little bit of a tougher matchup. I mean, I guess not. Mikal Bridges is not the same defender as he was years past, but I just prefer the $1,000 to get to Zion tonight. Prefer his upside. I think that Ingram is kind of just okay in this mid-tier type range. McCollum, pretty good game against Portland last time out. I'm not going to read into that too much because I think that with Zion's role increasing, with Ingram kind of being the second option on offense right now, CJ is taking a really big backseat to these guys. I think that they just wanted to get him going against his old team. That's kind of my outlook on that one. I'm not going to read into it too much.
He also played 7, 7, 6, 9, like his minutes, 36 compared to 29, 29, 30, 27. Usage higher. So, I mean, that had to have been it. Give more minutes, give him against his old team. He shot the ball way more than he has in a couple weeks. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm not going to read into that too much. Price tag's pretty good for him. I think that like the ceiling for him right now with the current role and with everything going on with Zion, I think is probably like 36, 37 on a good night. The minutes have come down from a touchdown perspective. I mean, he's just listed as the point guard. He's not the point guard for this team. So I'm kind of okay getting away from CJ. Murphy, always like as a low owned option in the upper lower mid tier, whatever you want to call it, or upper value tier, lower mid tier. Totally off of Joe Val now. I mean, man, if this guy couldn't even put up a decent fantasy score in one of the best matches possible against Portland with his backup center out, I just don't think that he's part of the plans for this team right now. I think they just want to run more small ball, get Trey Murphy out there more. They can put Zion at the 5. So yeah, Joe Val, even at this low price tag, complete fade for me. And that's really it. On the Brooklyn side of things, I'm only considering 2 guys. That's Cam Thomas, just because he's got the slate breaking ability with the scoring upside. Been playing really well since returning from the injury. Played 30 plus minutes in every single game since returning. 39 minutes in 2 of his last 3 games. 33 plus DK points in all the games, leading the team in usage with a little bit over 30% over the last 5 games. So I think that he's pretty solid. Probably avoids Herb Jones, I would guess. I think that Herb's probably going to be on McHale. So I think that Cam Thomas is pretty safe from a matchup standpoint. I don't mind him at 7.2K. And then Cam Johnson, if Dorian Finney-Smith is ruled out, would expect him to get the start. Mentioned how the Pelicans been a little bit more vulnerable at times this season to 3-point shooters, bottom 7 in catch and shoot defense this season. Cam leading the team in points per game off catch and shoot. So I think that he's pretty solid option if Dorian Finney-Smith were to be ruled out. And then Day'Ron Sharpe, I think, makes your player pool at 4K. Just he's always shown really big upside, about 1.25 fantasy point per minute producer this season. So doesn't really need much to get there. Would expect him to get some minutes in a blowout if this game does blow out. But yeah, not a ton of interest in this game.
Yeah, no, I like this shout. Zion for sure my favorite. I don't really like CJ. I'm not really sure how much Zion BI builds I would get to. Like, I probably would rather just take a shot on Cam Thomas for 500 cheaper or something if I do go Zion, but I do like both of them. Bridges, I never really like to play. Your Trey Murphy shout in the mid-tier. Day'Ron Sharpe. I mean, like, these guys are going to be super low owned. This is like who you plug around as a one-off or a 2v2 to try and get different from the chalk is really how you use this game. But yeah, really Zion or bust. If Herb misses, Herb's not even questionable, is he? I didn't see.
He's probable.
Probable. Cool. I've lost $1 million on Joe Val at this price. So it doesn't mean to keep playing him. Sometimes you can quit. It is possible. All right, 2 games left, Rio. Again, appreciate everyone hanging out. 181 of you. Hope you all having a good day. We appreciate like button, subscribe button, and then if you want to join us at ShipItNation.com. I've been looking over Rio Slate plan. Awesome stuff as always. Projections up, updated throughout the night. Showdown core report. Nice, easy one today, Rio. 9 p.m. Eastern. Denver, Minnesota. News is important in that game, but prize pool is usually good. We have showdown content, PGA, MMA, NASCAR. 9 days away for MLB too. Crazy stuff. Head over to ShipItNation.com. If you want to check us out weekly, monthly, 6-month, annual packages, use that promo code HOOP15. Gets you 15% off. Oh, wrong button right there. Next game on the slate, 2 games left. Dallas Mavericks, San Antonio Spurs. Another one that's going to get a lot of ownership. 234.5 total. Mavericks 9-point favorites. No injury news really in this one. Zach Collins is out for San Antonio. Josh Green for Dallas, but nothing in terms of injury news. Luka's going to be the preferred spend up. 12.5K on a roll. Wemby's in this game too, though. I mean, he always gets some ownership. I saw you write it up in the playbook, and it's definitely true. But he can't be too highly owned. Just center eligible. You know, he has upside to break this slate as a contrarian spend. I think Devin Vassell is very interesting. I hate playing SoCan, so no thanks to there. I love Vassell. Gafford is going to be a chalk center. Curious to hear your thoughts on him. Trey Jones, I like at 5'6", going to get some ownership. I like PJ too. PJ, the power forward eligibility, 5.1K. Yeah, I'll throw it to you. Start with the Dallas side. Start with Gafford, actually. I'm curious about him.
Yeah, I mean, first off, PJ owes me some money, so
Yeah,
hopefully he can get it back tonight.
I thought you're over that by now.
I am now, but
yeah,
still in the back of my mind sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Gafford is really good option tonight. I think that I really like him and Derek Lively going to be max one of those guys, but I'm gonna try to get about an even amount of both because it seems like one of these guys is putting up a really solid fantasy score on a nightly basis. I mean, Derek Lively's had some really big games coming off the bench lately. He had a 42 in 20 minutes against Chicago, 25 against Golden State, 26 against Denver. So yeah, I think that both these guys are really good. We've seen Gafford ceiling put up 41, 36, 36, 34 in the last 4 of the last 5 games. But yeah, definitely be a max one of those 2 guys. But I like them both a good bit tonight. Yeah, I agree with you on Sochan though, man. This guy he is so tough to watch sometimes. It's
cheeks.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A nice way of putting it because yeah, I've been watching a lot of Spurs games this season. Obviously, if you get the chance to watch Wemby, you definitely should. But it seems like I know they try to get the ball to him a ton, but it seems like a lot of times like he can shoot over anybody in the league. There's nobody that can block his shot if you get it to him near the rim. And I see Sochan just run past Wemby and like throw the ball over his head to somebody like Malachi Branham in the corner for a 3 instead of getting the ball to the best rookie to come out of the league since LeBron. But I don't know. I'm not in the NBA. These guys are. So
you ain't playing them, right? 5'8", you ain't playing them.
No, I'm not playing Sochan. I prefer. I guess what a segue to some of these secondary guys because I do like Trey Jones and Keldon Johnson a little bit more than Sochan tonight. I like Trey Jones a lot more actually. Different positions, but he's a little bit cheaper. He's been playing really well lately. 30 plus DK points 4 of the last 5 games, averaging 8.5 assists over his last 6 games. Think he's got a pretty solid matchup going up against Kyrie tonight. So yeah, like Trey Jones, I think Keldon's always got pretty big upside off the bench. Only have a strong take on him. I think he's pretty fine at 5.6K. Could be a spot where I see him get some more minutes tonight because I think that Sochan is going to have his hands busy guarding Luka. Champagne just doesn't really do much on the court, kind of out there more so for defense and moral support. But yes, I think that they might need some more offense out there to help out with Wemby, which could give Keldon some more runs. So I'm always pretty into Keldon as a low value option with some upside. But yeah, I mean the conversation on the Dallas side of things is about Luka. If we have enough money to get up to him tonight, I think we definitely do with some of these cheap value options that we mentioned in the earlier games. So yeah, I think that if you have the money pay for him, you play him because he's I mean, I don't really, there's not much analysis needed. He's averaged 68.5 DK points versus San Antonio this season. San Antonio is bottom 2 in DVP versus point guards, bottom 4 pick and roll defense this season. Luka is first in the league in points per game off pick and roll situations. So I think he's the best spent up by a wide margin. Don't have a hot take at all there. I would be max 1 Luka and Kyrie tonight. I think that Kyrie is totally fine option as well. Starting to flash a little bit more of a ceiling playing alongside Luka. Could be, I mean, obviously the one game against Golden State, Luka got injured, left early after 30 minutes. And then last game, I think that the matchup is probably better for Kyrie in some ways, where Aaron Gordon, I think, matches up really well against a player like Luka. So Kyrie kind of took over in that one. He had that crazy left-handed floater from like almost a three-pointer, which was just insane. One of the craziest shots I've ever seen as a buzzer beater. Good matchup though. San Antonio bottom 2 DVP versus shooting guard. So I think both these guys are really good tonight. I would be max 1 though. I already mentioned Daniel Gafford and Lively, like them both. I think PJ is fine. 5.1K, really good price tag on him. Wow, he's shooting terribly right now though. 2 for 10 last game, 1 for 11 2 games ago when I needed him. 0 for 7. He hasn't made a three-pointer in 2 straight games, but the rebounding numbers have been pretty good. So might be a wait and see approach for me on PJ, just with him shooting poorly right now. And then Wemby, I think, is probably the second best spin up on the slate tonight. I just prefer him over Jokic, even just straight up. I think that their projections and ceilings are very similar on this slate. Matchup's really good against Gafford, against Derek Lively. Had a couple up and down games against Denver this season, put up 29.3 in the first meeting, then 52.8 in the last meeting. That was only in 27 minutes. And it seems like now he's pretty clear to play, I would say 32 to 34 minutes a game. Got up to 36 in the overtime win over Brooklyn on Sunday. Put up 76.25 DK points. So like that's, he has that type of ceiling that can compete with Luka and with Jokic. And he's cheaper, 10.6K. So I really like Wemby tonight. I wouldn't, like I said, I would not read too much into the ownership number, because I think that manually you should probably expect him to come in 2 to 3 times more owned, just because of the name value of Wemby. So I think that he's easily the second best spend up tonight. I think that Devin Vassell is a pretty solid mid-tier option with some upside. 7.3K, price coming down a little bit more. He's the safest in terms of a minutes standpoint from San Antonio. Played 36 plus minutes in 9 straight games. Couple 50-point DK games in there as well. So I think that he's really solid at 7.3K. But I mean, this is the game of the night in my opinion. I'm definitely going to want to have exposure to this one. Yeah.
Great breakdown for sure. Would you add PJ in that Gafford Lively rule, or would you just center's not great today. It's totally fine, but it's not one of those weeks or one of those days where there's like 3 great centers, a Luke Cornett starting with no value, whatever it may be, a Goga of the world. You said you want to max 1 at Gafford Lively since they aren't going to share the court, but do you think they can both get like 28, or like, I guess they're not 28 from Lively, 32 from Gafford, and that be enough on this slate? And then would you add any PJ in that rule as well, or no, because he can share the floor with both, obviously?
I think that he's kind of fine to float around with another one of Gafford and Lively, especially when you consider he's only 5.1K, going to be out there together. So I think, and he could get it done different ways, doesn't really rely on the rebounding and putbacks and things like that. Because if the shot is falling, which we haven't seen since the Indiana game, then he can put up a good score. He only had 7 rebounds in that game, put up 20 real points, 39 DK points. So I think that he can get done in a different way, that he's allowed to be on the court together with Lively and Gafford tonight. So I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, and I like the Lively shout. I mean, right now, like Jake's talking, I don't know about Luka, value super scarce. No, there isn't really, like 3K options are really bad. Lively at 4K though makes a lot work, and then you can go to like Champagne from the Wizards game. If Kuzma's ruled out, you got like Jules Bernard. We were talking. There's Butler. There's PJ in this game. Some of the Spurs stuff. Like there is enough 4K, 5K guys, and I don't even think like the 7, 8K range is really strong today, where you just go up to one of Luka, Wemby, Jokic, etc. There's enough to make it work and feel good. But you can't go like Wemby, Luka. At least I don't see how you can do that right now. You would need a lot to change on the slate. But getting one of them, I think, is pretty easy. And Luka puts up 75, 80, yeah, you're totally good if those like 4K guys get you just 20. So yeah, great breakdown of that. Not much really to add. I like the Lively shout because Gafford's definitely going to get some ownership. Probably the most popular center on the slate is Gafford. Lively a pivot there if you want to do that. I like PJ though. I like Wemby, Vassell, Trey Jones. Yeah, I mean, you said best game of the night. That in Houston will get the ownership. Got one game left on the slates. Denver Nuggets going to be pretty low owned. Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves, 213 total. Denver 8-point favorites. Zeke Naji is questionable for Denver. Does not mean anything. Minnesota, this is important though. Gobert's questionable. He missed yesterday. We talked a little pre-show. You think he plays? Nas is questionable though. He left yesterday's game. Who knows about him? Q-tag there. Throw it to you on that. I mean, this game, last one of the night, locks an hour after that Dallas Spurs game. Hopefully we have clarification on Nas. But if we don't, yeah, I guess how are you going to handle it? Any lean on Nas? Any lean on Gobert? I already mentioned your lean. Just break down what you're going to do in this.
Yeah, worth noting, Anthony Edwards is also questionable. I don't know if you mentioned that
I didn't.
Yeah, with the finger injury. He dislocated his finger on that dunk on my guy, John Collins.
Yeah, so that's huge. Yeah, was that midday or no? I just missed it.
It was just with their first injury report. He did leave the game, or he was in the locker room for a little bit, but he didn't miss any time because of the long timeout dealing with John Collins' injury.
So him too.
I think that Ant plays. Like he's an Iron Man. He's not going to miss games if he's at all capable. There's been multiple times this season where he, goes to the locker room, the game against Indy, where he, had multiple trips, then came back and crushed. I think that he plays. I mean, I don't see him missing. I think that he's going to want to be out there if he can be out there. A dislocated finger is definitely something that you can manage. So I would expect him to play. Mentioned how you said, or that I think that Rudy Gobert is in tonight because he's got a rib injury. He was dealing with a hamstring thing a couple games ago. But the rib injury is a new injury thing, but I think it was just like a maintenance to give him the night off, knowing that this game is probably the biggest game of the year for both these teams in terms of the seeding in the Western Conference, because both these teams, along with OKC, fighting for the number one spot in the West, all within half a game of each other. So I would expect if any of these guys are capable of going, they're going to go. But yeah, Ant Edwards and Gobert, I'm expecting to play tonight. I think that Nas is a little bit more on the truly questionable side of things because they called it a head injury, but then I think Chris Finch said it was like a neck injury. I didn't really see what happened to him. I don't know if it was an elevation thing or if it's like he's being evaluated for a concussion or exactly what it was. But so I don't really know what's going on with him. I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more reporting on it closer to lock. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not his injury designation doesn't really mean as much. I think it's the Gobert one that you're worried about, because if Gobert is out, Nas is out, then you're looking at like Luka Garza, you're looking at a lot of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or if just Gobert is out, then you're looking at Nas if he's in. So
he's
I guess
7'5" now.
Yeah,
Nas doesn't really mean. It's more so if Nas was out and Gobert was out, like you said, the Garza, but good shout.
But yeah, the Nuggets should be pretty fully healthy. Like you mentioned, Zeke Naji doesn't really do much. But yeah, I mentioned it on the Friday show, I believe, with Nades, how Mike Malone was talking about dialing back some of these minutes of Jokic and Murray towards the end of the season. Don't think that this is the spot he's going to be able to do that. Like I mentioned, with this game being a very big game for both these teams. So I'm expecting both of them to be, upper 30s minutes tonight. You're getting pretty much everybody in this game pretty low owned outside of the secondary options like Aaron Gordon, Kyle Anderson, who I don't really love per se. So I think that Jamal especially makes for a pretty interesting option at 8.3K, kind of sandwiching between Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet as a pivot to those guys who I already mentioned not wanting more than one of them. So I think that, Jamal Murray makes some sense as a pivot to those guys. Matchup is terrible against Jaden McDaniels. We talk about all the time how great of a defender he is, but Jamal Murray is kind of notoriously known for beating up on these tougher matches, beating up on really competitive teams. So I think that Jamal going to come out firing tonight. I don't have like a matchup or like anything that says stat wise that it's a good matchup. I just like Jamal in these types of games, so I'm gonna have some of him. Yeah, I like Jokic 12.1K, but definitely prefer Luka for more expensive and Wemby for cheaper. Ownership should definitely reflect that though. I'm seeing 3% ownership on him, so if you want to get over the field, I think that it makes some sense. And if you get him in a matchup against Luka Garza, if Gobert were to be ruled out, you would definitely be bumping up his projection a lot. Really only considering those guys, though. I don't love the spot for Michael Porter Jr. at almost 7K. I think that Aaron Gordon is, I guess he makes a lot of sense in the mid tier at 5.7K. Prefer him to Sochan if I'm choosing between the two. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just okay with Gordon tonight. Going to have his hands full defensively. I would expect him to get some Anthony Edwards tonight. And then the Minnesota side of things, just really Ant for me tonight. Kind of a similar scenario with Jamal Murray. Don't think the matchup is great against Aaron Gordon, KCP, those type of guys who are really good defenders. But I mean, he's just been lighting it up since Karl-Anthony Towns has been sidelined, averaging 55.5 DK points per game without Cat this season, 37% usage rate with Nas and Cat off the floor this season. So yeah, I mean, he's always a great spin-up option. I'll always have interest in him. So yeah, don't have much to say about that. I think that Gobert is okay. Don't really like attacking centers against Jokic for brings a little bit of foul risk, but yeah, really just looking at Ant tonight. And then I think that like Nickeil Alexander-Walker is kind of interesting in that mid-tier range if Nas were to miss, because he did get the start over Nas in the second half. So I would expect him to pick up a lot of those minutes left behind, and he's been playing really well lately. I think that he's very sneaky. 36, 36, 37 in 3 of his last 4 games. They really like him for his defense, so I could see him playing a good amount of minutes tonight. Maybe more of a showdown play, but yeah, just kind of looking at the studs in this one. Not a ton of interest.
No, if he did if Nas somehow did get the start, or if Nas was out, I mean, if Gobert and Nas for sure were out, then yeah, like Slow-Mo, someone asked about him. If Gobert's in, I think Slow-Mo would be fine, but like I prefer Aaron Gordon, I prefer Ahmed Thompson, I prefer Trey Jones, I prefer PJ Washington, I prefer Gafford, I even prefer Brooks for the game environment. Like I just don't really think I'll get to Slow-Mo really, unless both of them are ruled out. Yoke, I'm in the same boat as you. Like I'd rather get different at some others. I'd rather play Jamal over Yoke for the price, the Wemby and 400 apart from Luka. I mean, there's a huge ownership gap, so of course, but I definitely like Luka more. What about Gobert if he plays, or like putting him in at 7.6K? You think he plays? This game is on an island, so you'd have to have you don't want him in the util spot because you're probably not having a 2v2 elsewhere. And then like Jamal's 700 more or something, or do you not even have interest in Gobert even if he plays? He'll be so low, or not so low. He'll be low on though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Gobert he's very consistent when he's out there. I think that 7.6K is a very solid price tag for him. I think that like 42 to 44 is definitely in the range of outcomes for him tonight, which would be very good at that price tag. I don't know. I just did a little math thing for like a 2v2 in terms of salary. So if you go Rudy and Aaron Gordon, it's 13.3K. And then say Rudy and Nas were to be ruled out, you go Ant plus Garza. 13.3K for Rudy and Aaron Gordon, and then Ant and Garza is 13K. So you'd be able to make that pivot if you wanted to.
Yeah, and that would definitely be the pivot to make. Someone asked about Garza. We answered it. Yeah, it's not a game I really want much exposure to, though. Like a little 2v2, something like that, I think is how I'd approach it. If the news doesn't break your way, you're still totally fine with year 2. Otherwise, you'll get, if you have spots left and Gobert's out, Nas is out, you'll get the Garzas, the Slow-Mo, Nas. This game's going to be low owned, and it's an hour after lock. So hopefully we get it before lock, make life a little easier. It's also the showdown game. And Rio has content Monday through Friday for that at ShipItNation.com. So make sure to check that out. A lot of success in the showdown streets. Projections will be updated, of course, throughout the night. Only 5 games. Feels a little weird. It is a Tuesday, though. Tomorrow, the big 888. Not sure if there's some satellites out there, but check it out tonight. Any final words for the people? Great stuff as always. And Kobe, we appreciate those words, man.
Yeah, no, I'm a kind of a grosser slate compared to some other ones, but always money to be made. So I'll definitely be in the streets chasing down some of those 888 satellites, some of those mega millies that they got coming up at the end of the month. Yeah, I know I'm looking forward to it. I think tomorrow's slate is probably a lot better, but yeah, always money to be made. So be in those streets.
Yeah, always money to be made, and it ends a lot earlier. So if you want to go out, I know Rio's going to be hitting the weights a little later at night, a little earlier than he usually does. Cook dinner for the wife or something, maybe. I don't know. The girl, do something. Have a good night. Enjoy it. Get outside. Touch some grass, as the kids like to say. Good stuff is always real. We'll be back tomorrow, Rio and I, on the Mayo Media Network. Have a good night. Let's see some SHIPIT Nation logos up top. For Rio, I'm Titletown. Be safe. Have a good night.